Most people think commercial fishing is about knowing how to fish, but your first trip teaches you it's actually about surviving sleep deprivation, fixing rusted gear with frozen fingers, and learning to pick 15,000 pounds of slime-covered salmon fast enough that the crew doesn't leave you behind next season. The float plane drops toward a beach in Bristol Bay, Alaska, and you brace for impact. The pontoons hit softer than expected. A rolling stop on wet sand where there is no dock and no runway. The door opens to wind and the smell of salt and diesel. A cousin or deckhand you have never met pulls up on a four-wheeler, nods, and tells you to throw your duffel on the rack. You drive past a mechanic shed with nets piled outside, past rusted buoys and stacked crates, and pull up to a cabin where the smell of eggs and chocolate chip pancakes is already pushing through the door. You have been on the ground maybe 20 minutes. Within an hour, you are suiting up. Neoprene waders that stick to your legs. A rain jacket that smells like someone else's sweat. A personal flotation device they check twice. Waterproof gloves that are too big. You stand at the window and watch the crew outside moving fast, pulling gear, shouting over the wind. Then someone hands you a pair of boots and says it is time to go. You thought there would be an orientation, a walkthrough, maybe a day to settle in. There is not. By hour 3, you are waist deep in cold water pulling salmon out of a seine net, and the crew is watching to see if you can keep up. That is when you realize the truth. Your fishing skill does not matter yet. What matters is whether you can move fast enough that you do not slow everyone else down, because every person on this boat gets paid by volume. If the crew brings in 15,000 pounds today, everyone eats. If you are the reason they bring in 12, they will remember. The clock starts the moment you arrive, and no one tells you how much time you have to prove you belong. You climb onto the back of an ATV or into a small raft, and someone guns it toward the water. The seine net is already set, anchored to shore by a safety line that runs 100 feet out into the bay. You wade in. The water is colder than you expected, even through neoprene, and the waves push you sideways. A veteran deckhand is yelling something, but the wind takes half the words. You reach for a salmon thrashing in the net and it slips. Another one wriggles past your gloves and disappears back into the current. The deckhand next to you is pulling 3 fish for every one you touch, moving with a rhythm you do not have yet. Your hands are covered in slime within minutes. Scales stick to your rain jacket and your face. You taste salt and rust. The physical shock is not the cold or the weight of the fish. It is the speed. No one stops. No one slows down to let you catch up. In Bristol Bay, the sockeye run does not wait, and on Long Island striped base boats, the school moves and the captain is already calling the next set. You learn to coordinate lifts on electric reels, hearing "lift it, lift," shouted over the noise of the winch and the water, pulling a thrashing 30-pound striper up the side of the boat with 2 other deckhands whose timing you are still trying to match. The first offload happens under a midnight sun that never sets. 15,000 pounds of salmon slide across the deck and into the tender. You have been awake for 16 hours. Someone hands you coffee in a plastic mug that smells like fish. There is no real break. You drink it standing up, and then you are back in the water. Your eyes are hooded. Your shoulders are burning. You are learning that this job is not about knowing how to fish. It is about endurance and whether your body can keep moving when your brain wants to stop. Here is what separates a good operation from a dangerous one. Before you ever touch a net, someone should brief you on safety. They should check your PFD, show you where the safety lines are, and make sure you know the hand signals. If no one does that, you are working for people who care more about speed than whether you make it home. But if you cannot keep up, none of that matters, because the question everyone is asking, even if they do not say it out loud, is whether you will still be here tomorrow, and the day after that, and whether they will have to do your job and theirs while you figure it out. On a 60-day trip, you learn fast that the boat does not stop for anything. You are running at 6 knots, maybe 8, and another vessel is closing from starboard. The captain is on the radio. You are on deck trying to tuck a splice in a gillnet line while the boat pitches left, and your stomach goes with it. The weather does not ask if you are ready. A swell hits, and you leave the deck for a second, actually airborne, and come down hard enough that your teeth click. You bump your head on a winch housing. No one says anything. You just keep working. A buoy snaps off during a set. You dig into the kit for a replacement and pull out a red one, but the deckhand shakes his head and points at the orange pile. You grab rusty pliers that barely close and try to crimp the shackle with fingers that have gone numb inside your gloves. It takes 3 tries. The gillnet is already sliding into the water, and if it does not deploy clean, the whole shot tangles, and you lose an hour untangling it, or you lose the set entirely. You are learning that most of this job is not hauling fish. It is fixing things that break under pressure, in conditions that make every task twice as hard. A striped base captain with 20 years on the water shows you how to work the electric reel when the drag sticks. He does not explain it twice. You watch his hands and try to copy the motion. On a Bristol Bay tender, you are handed a splice that needs finishing and you have never done one before, but the crew is waiting and the net goes back in the water in 10 minutes. So you do it. You learn because there is no alternative. The bottleneck is not your skill. It is whether your body can still function on 3 hours of sleep, cold that makes your hands shake, and the constant low-grade nausea of a moving deck. That is what they are watching for. Not whether you are strong. Whether you can stay functional when everything in you wants to stop. If you are serious about trying this, do 2 things before you ever step on a boat. 1, bring 3 extra pairs of gloves, because you will soak through the first pair in a day, and frozen fingers cannot grip anything. 2, start doing cardio and grip strength training 3 months before the season. You do not need to be big. You need to be able to move for 16 hours without falling apart. Proper gear handling is not just about safety. When you rush a splice or let a net tangle, the fish sit longer before they are iced. That damages quality. When the crew has to stop and fix your mistake, that is lost time. And lost time is lost money for everyone on board. You learn fast or you cost the crew, and they will not forget which one you were. If this is changing how you see the seafood industry, hit like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments, would you ever try a season of commercial fishing, or is this a hard no for you? Now here is the one thing that determines whether rookies come back for Season 2. The real test is not whether you can lift a full tote or tie a bowline in the dark. It is whether you can do it on day 12 when you have slept 4 hours in the last 48 and your hands are cracked and bleeding and the crew is still moving at the same pace they were on day 1. The filter is mental endurance and attitude. Veteran deckhands are not watching to see if you are strong. They are watching to see if you complain, if you slow down when no one is looking, or if you adapt and keep moving. The midnight sun in Bristol Bay means there is no night to mark the end of a shift. You work until the fish stop coming or the tide turns. You lose track of time. On the 3rd day, you stop thinking about how tired you are, and you just move. Your hands know where the net is. Your body knows when to brace for a swell. That is the moment the crew stops watching you like a liability and starts working around you like you are part of the unit. Some rookies quit. They call it in after a week, say the work is not what they expected, and they are on the next flight out. Others finish the season and never come back, but a few return. In 2017, a deckhand on a Bristol Bay tender used the trip to reboot a photography career, spending offload breaks documenting the work, and came back the next summer. The ones who return are not necessarily the strongest or the fastest. They are the ones who did not quit when it got hard, and the crew remembers that. There is a camaraderie that forms when you prove you will not quit. After a big offload, the crew is beaming, covered in slime and exhausted, and someone claps you on the shoulder. A deckhand with 20 years on the water gives you a quiet nod while coiling line, and you know what it means. You are welcome back. That nod is worth more than anything they could say, because it means they trust you now. It means next season you will earn more, because captains give better shares to crew they know will not fold. Experienced crews produce better handled fish because they work as a unit. There is no wasted motion. The fish go from net to ice faster, which means better quality. Returning crew members know the rhythm, know the gear, and know each other. That efficiency shows up in the product. When you see high crew turnover in a fishery, that is a red flag. It means people do not want to come back, and that usually means poor conditions, poor safety, or poor pay. Before you sign on anywhere, ask 2 questions. What is your crew turnover rate, and what is your safety record? If they will not answer or they get defensive, walk away. Expect to earn less your first season. You are the slowest person on the boat and everyone knows it. But if you come back, your pay goes up because you are no longer a rookie. You are an investment that paid off. Pack for 0 sleep. Bring caffeine in whatever form works for you. Bring blister care because your hands and feet will tear up in the first week. Bring dry socks, more than you think you need, because wet feet in cold boots will break you faster than the work will. The job is hard, but it is not random. The people who make it are the ones who prepare, who do not quit, and who understand that the first season is just the price of entry. Subscribe for more. The salmon fillet in your grocery store was handled by someone in those conditions. The person who pulled it from the net was cold, exhausted, and working faster than their body wanted to move. And the speed and care they used in those first minutes after the fish came out of the water determined whether what you are buying is firm and bright or soft and dull. Freshness is not just about how fast a fish gets from water to ice. It is about how it was handled in between. A well-trained crew knows how to pull a fish from the net without bruising it, how to bleed it properly if the species requires it, and how to get it into refrigerated storage before the cellular breakdown starts. A rookie crew that is undertrained or overworked will rush, will mishandle, will let fish sit in the sun while they fix a problem that should not have happened. That difference shows up in texture, in flavor, and in how long the fish stays good after you buy it. Fisheries with low crew turnover produce better seafood. When the same people come back season after season, they work as a unit. They know the gear, they know the timing, and they know how to keep quality high even when the pace is brutal. Bristol Bay, sockeye, and Long Island striped bass fisheries are both tightly regulated for sustainability, and they also tend to have experienced returning crews. That is not a coincidence. Good management and good working conditions create stability, and stability creates quality. High turnover is a warning sign. If people do not come back, it usually means the pay is bad, the conditions are dangerous, or the operation does not care about either. And when a boat is burning through new crew every season, that inexperience shows up in the product. Fish get mishandled. Mistakes pile up. Quality drops. When you see a fishery or a brand with high turnover, you are often looking at a race to the bottom where volume matters more than anything else. The human cost of cheap seafood is real. When consumers demand the lowest possible price, someone pays for it, and it is usually the crew. Boats cut corners on safety training to save time. They push people harder to maximize volume. They do not invest in the gear or the support that keeps experienced workers coming back. The result is a workforce that is constantly churning through rookies who do not know what they are doing, and a product that reflects that chaos. Paying slightly more often means you are supporting a different model. You are supporting fisheries that invest in their people, that train them properly, that pay them enough to come back. Those fisheries produce better fish because the people handling it actually know what they are doing and have a reason to care. This is not about charity. It is about recognizing that quality costs something. And that cost is often the difference between a crew that is barely surviving and a crew that has the time and resources to do the job right. When you are buying seafood, look for fishery names and vessel information on the label. If a product tells you it came from Bristol Bay or names the boat, that is transparency, and transparency usually means accountability. If you are buying high-end fish from a fishmonger or a restaurant, ask about crew conditions. Most people in the industry respect that question, and the good operators will have an answer. Support fisheries with strong safety records. NOAA and other agencies track this data, and some retailers are starting to make it available. The quality lens is simple. Better trained crews equal better tasting fish. The people who handled your seafood were either rested, trained, and equipped to do the job right, or they were not. You can taste the difference. The money lens is just as clear. Your purchase supports either a system that chews people up and spits them out, or a system that keeps experienced fishermen coming back because the work is hard but fair. The fish on your plate is the end of a chain that started with someone in neoprene, waiters, standing in cold water at 3 in the morning, and whether that person comes back next season depends partly on whether you are willing to pay what their work is actually worth. Subscribe for more.